Welcome to Mark D. Maker. In this video, we'll be looking at two different techniques on painting wood carvings and some tips and tricks. All right, first I'm going to show you my painting setup. First thing you see here, and take my advice, I've been painting a long time, a nice heavy mason jar with a wide base. Don't sabotage yourself with a drinking glass or something small. You need something that has a little bit of weight to it. Don't fill it all the way to the top, just a little bit down, but that's pretty substantial. You'll thank me later. I have all kinds of paintbrushes. None of these are really expensive. I do have some nice watercolor brushes, but these are all meant for acrylic paint. These are all vinyl. You can get these on specials at any of the craft stores. They're very inexpensive. We got paints. I just picked up today this brand of paint. It was 59 cents a tube. It was buy one, get one free. I ended up with a whole bag full of them for like $5. So nothing really expensive here. Some real basics. This is like a styrofoam paper plate. I got two of them there. When one fills up, set it aside, use the other one. So real simple, nothing expensive, real basic. Let's get on with the project. Now, here's just a really quick lesson I wish somebody would have shared with me a long time ago. You see this guy, and he was meant to be kind of a goofy guy, you know, cowboy. Look at his posture. Bow-legged. No butt. And the clothes he's wearing don't complement each other at all. They almost clash. I mean, they kind of like the red and the green kind of go together, but something that would tie everything together and make this more uniform would be to do antiquing on him. And if you were to, there's a straight paint on here, and it was put on pretty thick, so you really can't see the grain of the wood. You can in bits and pieces, but if you were to antique, this whole thing would really pull it together and make it look more uniform. Now this guy, if you look at his shirt, his pants, the wood color from underneath is showing through, and it makes it more unified. It's more believable to look at what he's wearing and go, oh yeah, that's possible. Even in his beard, there's underlying, the wood color is coming through. The only place that isn't is the face. Let's see if I can get you up close. See, the face doesn't have, isn't on thin. That's a pretty thick coat of paint. But you see the wood coming through everywhere else. That underlying wood really unifies it, much as an antiquing over a solid coat of paint like that would do. So what we're going to do with one of these guys is we're going to do one in a solid paint and one in a stain, kind of one like this. We're going to do one like this, and then we're going to antique the one like this. All right, so let's get started painting. It's a new brush that I have. Like I say, it was inexpensive, but it has a good spring to it. You see that it has springs right back. It's a nylon brush. Water's right over here. But I'm going to paint this straight paint. I'm not going to thin it like a stain. I will do that with the second one. The name of this paint is Carved Pumpkin. How appropriate. So just straight paint. And with the straight paint, you can pretty much go into these really tight areas, and the wood will really suck the moisture right out of the paint, and it will sit still pretty quickly. When you're doing the other version of it being very wet, you really got to be careful, and I often will switch off to a smaller brush because it will carry less water. Because it'll bleed like crazy when it's really thin. And when using straight paint like this, if you make a mistake, like I got a little bit of orange up on the stem right there, no big deal, because you can come in with your other paint and go right on top of it, and it'll cover right over that. When you thin it down and you do that, it's very hard to cover up. It's almost a better option to carve off where the paint is and then repaint. So just go back over it a couple of times because the wood will really suck the moisture out of this paint. Now I'm going to get a smaller brush. I always wet my brush before I put it in the paint. And I'm going to go in and do the eyelids here. Now when you're painting, especially if you're doing a bigger project, when you're painting, you don't want to leave the paint on the brush too long. 15 minutes can cause this paint to start to dry on the inside this part of the brush is called the ferrule, inside the ferrule, and ruin this brush, ruin the ability for it to flow, for it to perform like a good quality brush. And a bad brush can even make a simple paint job really difficult and not come out very good. So you want to, if you're going to be painting for a while, get those brushes in water and rinse them off. All right. And something I didn't show you that I do have here is hair dryer. Just buy a cheap little hair dryer and dry in between your color changes. If you're going to change color, dry it with the hair dryer. It just takes a few minutes, and it'll make all the difference in the world. Easier to handle. You won't get so much paint on you, and you won't smudge paint into areas you don't want it. All right, so now we're going to do this one. We'll come back to this guy in a minute, but we'll do this one since we have the orange here. And I'm moving to a little larger brush. It's a nylon brush, but I'm going to move a bunch of water from my cleaning area, my cleaning jar here, over to this, and basically I'm making a stain, watering this paint down so that the grain of the wood, even though this is basswood, doesn't have a whole lot of grain, it's going to show through. The character of the wood's going to show through. Now you see the difference. It's just like a stain. I might make that just a little bit thicker so we get a little bit more orange going on there. And you want to do that gradually. You pull, here's the puddle of straight paint, here's the watered down paint. Just pull into it until you get it where you want it. And I'm going to do everything orange with the exception of the eyeballs. You'll have to pay a little bit more attention to detail to this one, because we're not going to put that antiquing over it. What you see right now is what you get, is what it's going to look like. There are some areas here and here that are naturally a little darker. I'm just going to orange that up a little bit with some straight paint. The surface of this wood is very wet. So we'll give that a dry, and then we'll see what it looks like. All right, let's clean up some of this orange here. Doesn't take much because the orange is pretty much on the surface there. Alright, so I'm going to go in now with the white paint on the eyes, and we're just going to use the white paint straight on both of them. One thing to really practice with making is eyes. Eyes on anything can really sell the piece. Whether you're making animals, people, eyes is what speaks to people. Really makes a huge difference. Get the eyes right. And you're in. Just take your time. Yeah, they're happy little eyes. It's the inner Bob Ross in me coming out. So you let these dry. You may have to come back with a second coat. But you want the eyes to be nice and bright on both styles. In this style, you're going to antique over them and then wipe them off before we put the pupils in. The eye color and the pupil. Put a little brown on the palette here. Oh, that looks attractive. And I'm going to paint the vines. Let's see, we want to go straight paint with this one with brown. And we're going to come back later and dry brush a green over top of this, because we're going to antique it anyway, so. This we're going to water down. And this will actually probably look more realistic. Just a little bit of orange here, but it's so little, it just helps kind of like tie it all together. So we're going to leave it. Yeah, and looking at these two stems here, this one here does look more realistic. It has highlights. It's got dark areas. So what I'm going to do, set that one aside for a second. Take a little bit of this white and a little bit of this brown. just dry brush. I almost said hairbrush. Dry brush on here a little bit. I do have an airbrush, and I will be showing and demonstrating how to use an airbrush. I've used it before in some competition carving that I've done. I've competed in the World Championship in Ocean City, Maryland, the Ward World Championship. And so I will show some techniques that I used airbrushing with that in carving songbirds, hawks, owls, whatever I pick to video, I'll demonstrate it on that. This looks a little better. Some light, some darks. All right, so for the one that we're going to put an antique on, I'm setting aside for now. I'm gonna let that dry completely. And we're gonna antique it before we put the eyes on. On this one, we're gonna go ahead and finish it for now. So I'm just gonna dilute some black here. And try to darken the inside of the mouth a little. I think that's all I need on that. All right, so now we're going to try some antiquing. Now, I've never used this stuff before. I've watched another carver use it. Antique medium. So I'm going to give it a try. I've kind of always did it with mixing different types of browns, like a burnt sienna, making it very liquid and putting it all over and wiping it off really quick. And it's kind of hit and miss. This is supposed to be a little bit easier to use, so let's see how it goes. Now you want kind of a moppy brush to put it on with. As usual, you always wet your brush first, kind of wipe it off. Now I do have some rags here handy. So once you put it on, you cover the entire thing and then wipe it off. Oh, it's kind of thick. I'm a little surprised. I'm going to thin it a little bit. I'm going to work it into all the cracks and crevices. I think I'm going to do the stem later because that's my handle for right now. So I got it on all over, and now I'm going to wipe it off. yeah, look at that. Much easier to use than the way that I have been doing it. Nice. That's turned out really nice. I like this antique medium. Worked out really well. Really brings out a lot of the detail. Okay, and back to the first one. The stained one, and I just took the tip of a paintbrush, a very thin paintbrush. You could use a toothpick, and I will put the pupils in with that. Wow, that's almost too small. What do you think? You think the pumpkin's eyes look like that? Maybe. And this guy's done. I'm almost a little tempted to put the antique medium on it because I like it so much. I'm just going to dab into the green a little bit. A little heavy there, and just dry brush a little bit of the green onto the stem, because well after the pumpkin is picked, the stem can stay green for quite a while. I'm going to dilute that down just a little bit, play with it a little bit. I can make it look a little better. That looks pretty good. Just a hint of green in the brown stem. It's just hitting the outer edges, not in the grooves. So here we are so far. I've added just a little bit of redness to the cheeks, a wash on the nose and cheeks, because there's just a lack of separation and it just looks so plain, but that helped a lot. I am going to put the eyes in on this one, but tell me what you think. I really value your comments, and I would like to hear what you have to say. What's your opinion? Which one do you like? All right, let's put some pupils in there. Just like that, it's done. Boo. So there we go, 2 different techniques in painting. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please like and subscribe. And and I'll see you next time.